Cameras. Is it this one? No, it's not. It's just a camera too. Sheesh. There you go. All right, perfect. Let's get into it. We'll start now. It is 10:05. With the NAR presentation, we might run a little bit longer. I know that some of you guys, if you were in some of the brokerages that I do presentations for, you guys are pretty much ready. I've heard the NAR presentation. It's not really a presentation. It's more of just a conversation, in my opinion, with my experience on the mortgage side and what I think will happen eventually, what I suspect will happen, and then just getting some feedback from you guys as well. I don't think I've done it here on Monday Mortgage Minute, but if I did, then I apologize. We will be doing the business planning training probably in October. Will probably be the perfect time to do it. This is a little bit really nice to kind of lean into it as well. But before we do that, let's talk about the news updates, because this week is Fed week, all right, where they are going to lower the Fed funds rate by 25 basis points. So it should be a good week for rates. It should be a great week for rates. I don't think that we're going to see a huge decline in mortgage rates just like that, because the market has already kind of baked in that 25 basis points cut since the Fed has announced it, which they announced it last month. So little by little, the market has already been adjusting, right? As a smart investor, that's typically what you're going to end up doing, right? Try to get it at the top so that, or sorry, at the bottom, so that way, you know, when that time happens and when that news that you already know is confirmed happens, you're in a good position. So the only way that we'll see rates really shoot down a lot is if they decide to do a 50 basis point cut. But because of the news that we got last week, I do not think that that's the case. Consumer price index came in last week and it was at 2.5%, which was lower than July's reading of 2.9. However, the core CPI, which strips out food and energy, came in at 3.2%, which is still relatively high. And we know that core is the most important thing that we look at with inflation, because it does strip out food and energy, which fluctuate more month over month. And right now, what's hurting core is shelter as well as car insurance, to be honest with you. Car insurance is part of core, and that's been hurting core CPI or inflation for a long time now. And so has shelter, obviously, because of the amount of mortgage people are paying, but also rent that people are paying as well. Shelter includes your all-in as a homeowner as well as your rents too. PPI also lowered to 1.7% from 2.1%. However, core PPI did the same thing as core CPI. It rose, and it went from 2.3% to 2.4% year over year. CoreLogic's home price index showed that home prices nationwide were essentially flat, but are up 4.3% from July of last year. So we're still seeing housing strong. Purchase applications they're still only down 3% year over year, while refinance applications are up 106% year over year. And it looks like the refinance boom is already starting to unfold little by little, which is good for loan officers, but it could be an issue for agents, right? So before we kind of jump into that, the reason why you're seeing refinances starting to flourish, even though we haven't hit fives, right? We're still in the sixes and sevens, is because a lot of people, if they do have a relatively low rate, let's say they're at 4.5% or 5%, right? They didn't necessarily get in the 2020, 2021 time where their rates were, you know, in the twos or the threes or something like that. What happens is their blended rate, which is everything that's on their liabilities as well, is probably much higher because they have high APRs on their credit cards, they have high APRs on their cars, and their overall payments are much, much higher. So what you do is you essentially do a cash out refinance for them, or you try to get a second mortgage for them, whichever one makes more sense. However, what you're doing is you are consolidating their debt, and it makes it much better for them payment wise. So yeah, their mortgage may go from $2,000 to, let's say, $2,700 a month, right? That's a $700 swing. However, they probably killed about $1,500 a month of debt. So they're really saving $800 a month, right? And that's really why you're seeing cash refinances starting to come into the forefront even before rates have come down, because they're just trying to take advantage of lowering debt. A lot of people are in tough positions right now because of how high everything is. And if you can consolidate and utilize your home equity, you might as well do so. And that's what a lot of people are doing now. If you guys remember correctly, during 2020 and 2021, loan officers were so busy with refis, they didn't really pay too much attention to the referral partners or purchase contracts. I was already, I was in the market when that happened, and I was strictly focused on purchase applications at the time, mostly because any refinances I had would have been on the realtor side, because I was still about a year and a half in to 2 years as a loan officer. But there was a lot of loan officers that only paid attention to refinance business. Their referral partners suffered from it. I don't believe that this refi boom will be as big, but it will have mortgage companies and loan officers busy. And since mortgage companies right now aren't really staffed for capacity because of the lower influx of business the last couple of years, it will hurt the purchase business. I only bring this up now just so you guys understand, if it does happen, what the reasoning is behind it. It's more so just education purposes, not to really scare you or anything like that. But it's happened in the past with 2020 and 2021, and it looks like that swing towards refinances are going to open up the floodgates soon. I know that there's mortgage companies already positioning for it as well. I don't typically focus on refinances even now at all. I usually kind of pass them off, and I expect to do the same, especially if we get an influx of refinances, because my focus is typically with you guys. I enjoy having the conversations with you guys and structuring deals and getting people into homes more so than I do, with refinances. We'll have somebody probably on the team just doing intake just for that specifically. Rates on average are in the low sixes, especially on FHA loans, and they're even touching fives. You could, depending on your credit score, 680, 700, if you're going FHA, you'll probably be able to get right at 6% or even like a 5.99% on an FHA loan right now. For prime conventional borrowers doing 20% down, 740 plus, they're easily getting 6.5%, give or take, is what they're usually touching. That may require 0.5%, 0.75, not anything crazy, but rates are coming down significantly. Now, like I mentioned, I don't remember if we spoke about the NAR, if we had the NAR settlement presentation here or open conversation. I know we've spoken about it briefly here and there, but I'm going to kind of go into my thoughts.
We never talked about it to be a parent.
Read it really quick. I know that right now everything's been kosher, at least from the conversations I have with realtors, right? Getting that buyer brokerage agreement signed. I call it the BBA. So as I use the acronyms, just to understand what it is. Getting the BBA signed with the buyer up front hasn't been an issue. So sellers are still paying commission, right? Everything is kosher, everything is fine. As of right now, nobody has really had any hiccups with buyers wanting to sign it or with getting paid their compensation at closing at all. However, I do want to address this kind of going into the future and down the line in experience that I have very, very well, which is, the mortgage side of it. I do want you all to understand that with the NAR settlement, who it will impact the most will be us. Minorities specifically who already represent buyers that are scraping for down payment and closing costs just to purchase, right? That's really who it affects. It doesn't affect the person that has a bunch of money saved up that are doing the higher price points. It's going to be easier for that realtor or I would say real estate agent to be able to get commissions taken care of, whether that be from their buyer or from the seller directly. It hurts the people that are already struggling and may not have that extra money that's needed in order to be able to close that gap. And in 2021, a NAR study showed the median gross income for white realtors was $49,400, while for Black realtors, it was $24,400, less than half. And of course, this income does include people licensed that don't sell, which is why it's skewed downward so much, right? Because you're talking about $24,400, that's maybe like 2 deals a year, 3 deals a year, it's not much. But it does screw down on both demographics because it includes everybody that's licensed, right? That they may not do one sale at all. But this shows the disparity very clearly in income. And during the lawsuit, they had a professor that studied macroeconomics that compared economies similar to the US, one of them being Australia. And in Australia, the average commission rate is typically 2%, where in the US, on average, it's 6%. And in Australia, most buyers do not use buyer's agents to purchase their home. And if they do, the buyer's agents are probably only getting, I think there was like mostly settled for a flat fee of like $5,000 or 1% or something like that. It's very, very minimal. Okay. So like I mentioned, right now, there really hasn't been any sort of issues at all. Everything is kosher, it seems like, and everyone is going as if the settlement meant nothing. Except now for the buyer's agents who have to basically get those BBA signed up front and protect themselves so that way they're not wasting time with their buyers, which is also, to be honest, it's also a good thing. It's something that should have already been done ahead of time before the NAR settlement came in. A lot of people were walking around without doing BBAs at all, and you would waste a lot of time with the client. Then last minute, they switch from you to go to another realtor and they end up closing with them. And then you lost out on, 3-4 months of time, and it was a business cost, right? But that's a business cost that could have always been avoided. And right now, on the bright side, more than anything, that's protecting you, because now they cannot close without that until that BBA expires, or with a mutual pretty much release of contract, right, between the agent and the buyer. So it helps you not waste your time and then fight for the commission that you rightfully so deserve for all the work that you put in for the clients. Now, I'm going to give you a perspective through mortgages, because that's what I know, and I see this. I see it, the race to the bottom, what I call it. Every mortgage company gets the same return for the rates for the most part, okay? Meaning that a 6.5% rate today may pay 4% to the lender who produces those loans and sells them, right? It's pretty constant. Every lender will pretty much get the same return for their rates. Maybe a difference of an eighth or a quarter, nothing too big in terms of profitability, not rate. And they're pretty much all standard. That's why I talked to you guys about mortgage-backed securities, where that coupon is, how much that coupon is giving, right? Because at the end of the day, everybody gets paid the same amount on the back end, right? That 6.5% in this example is going to give the lenders 4% no matter what, right? Well, the reason why you see people offering different rates is because it's a question of who wants to work for the least amount, right? Why do you think banks have lower rates than a standard, lender, mortgage company, or even then a broker? Because the bank is okay with working at 50 basis points, which is basically 0.5%, right? They're okay at working at 1% because they pay that person that sits in the bank a fixed salary, right? So they work for less. So now if they're only working for, let's say, 2%, that rate may be at a 6% today. So now the bank is offering a 6%. They're getting a less return over time because they're okay with breaking even. They may be servicing that mortgage, stuff like that, and that's how they're going to make their money over time, right? But for the most part, it's all about who wants to work for the least amount, who is willing to break even to stay in business just one more day. So like I mentioned, a lender may say, I don't need to work for 4%. I pay my loan officers 0.5% and my expenses all in are 1%. So now I'm only going to work for 2%. Well, that 2% is a rate at 6% in this example, right? Now, they're working for minimal money and they're offering a better rate than most other companies. It's a race to the bottom in the mortgage company and the mortgage industry because business is slow nationally. And to recapture some, you need to slim down, right? It's called margin compression. It's normal in the industry where you're basically just trying to break even as much as possible to stay in business because business has slowed down. You have employees that you need to cover for, things like that. So back to the NAR settlement, there will be agents going to listing appointments saying, why would you list this house for 6% when you can do 3% and have the buyer pay the commission to the agent? Did you see the NAR settlement? You're not required to pay the commission. And while that agent may be inexperienced, right, because that's what happens with a lot of these race to the bottom type of companies, right, where you have that loan officer or that representative that really doesn't understand what they're doing, how to get a deal done or anything like that. It would be pretty much very similar, right? They're inexperienced, but there's a chance that seller will choose them to save another $15,000 in commissions without understanding what the true cost of that is, right? Meaning then it may not be priced right, right? Meaning that you might not get as many offers as you would if you were paying commission, right? Different things like that. And so as time passes, more and more listings like this will pop up. It may not be every single one of them, but it will start to happen little by little, at least I believe, because I see it every single day in the mortgage industry. It's the race to the bottom. So how do you as a buyer's agent protect yourself and still be able to close? What is your value add? That lender that isn't willing to compromise their value in a market that is tightening and staying firm at that 4% return on the 6.5% rate because of the service that they offer as a company to their loan officers and clients, right? That is you guys as the agent, right? Are you willing to compromise or are you not? You're staying firm because of what your value is to your clients, and what does that value look like, and how does that get quantified in your business in terms of what you're doing for that client, right? That agent that says, look, I know my shit, you're not going to play me, right? I'm providing XYZ to you as a buyer, and the listing agent isn't as slick as they think they are. We'll get this deal done, and I'll make sure that you get a good deal, right? And kind of showing your worth and your value and adding that to your business, right? Adding these things, these different tools, trying to better your business and sharpen your tools so that way that value add makes sense no matter what, right? Think about the value that you provide to buyers right now, the technology that you use, the service you give. Is there a way to add more to the services to make you irreplaceable to your clients, where they go and say, hey, what do I need to do to work with you, right? How much do I need to pay you, right, to work with you? What does that look like in terms of your day-to-day business, right? Looking into AI, maybe not so much more for just helping you minimize those day-to-day tasks, right, that AI is really good at doing right now, with helping you structure an email within a few seconds, helping you dissect an email with somebody, on a contract or something like that, using that to kind of minimize the amount of time that you're spending on admin work to be able to do more so marketing as well. Being the person that's going to tell them where to buy and where not to buy, right? Creating your own website with an IDX and making it so the client doesn't go on any other site but yours when searching, right? You know that you can get a Safari link if you have your website and it's michaellinoloans.com, right? You can go on to that person's Safari at the bottom with the share button, you can add it to their homepage, right? And so if you have it to where it's mobile friendly and very good with filters and things like that on your website, you'll be able to add that directly to the client's phone. And now when they're looking, instead of them having to go sign up with Zillow, Realtor, something like that, they click yours as an app and they're able to funnel through it. As long as you're making it mobile friendly, which a lot of apps now, a lot of websites now are, right? Doing things that, and I know this sounds redundant, but it works and it keeps us all relevant, right? Social media marketing, what does that look like? Maybe going direct to consumer, okay? And I don't mean direct to consumer as realtor.com or Zillow, where you're overpaying for leads, because you are literally overpaying and you're helping them continue to bask in this NAR settlement. But doing your own direct to consumer on Facebook ads, Google ads, right? You have that your website already up. You can funnel people directly to your website from Google, from Facebook, right? And looking at that and capturing those leads in as well. Using AI on your website to minimize those minute tasks. CRMs, guys, if you guys do not have a CRM, super, super important. I shouldn't be telling you this so far down the line in any of you guys' careers, and utilizing your CRM very, very well, okay? Putting campaigns together, follow-ups together, and really using it to your advantage is super, super important, because your CRM will always keep you top of mind. If you get a client 2 years down the road, or 2 years ago, and you've continually dripped them and followed up with them, and they're continuously getting your emails over time, the person that they're going to look for when they're ready to purchase is you. That's all that marketing is. It's continuing to stay top of mind one way or another, through social media, through your CRM, through whatever, okay? Knowing the market that you service. So when you're speaking to someone and they say, hey, I'm looking to buy a home, but it's been tough because I'm at 400,000 and I can't find much, you know what to say. Well, shit, have you looked at, Opa-locka? Do you know that Opa-locka has a plan to better their downtown and bring in more money and all these things, right? Have you looked at Pompano? Right, Pompano has a bunch of developments happening right now. And a few years ago, nobody would sniff Pompano at all. They're one of the few cities that have these lower price points. And even now they're increasing drastically. But there's a lot of development happening over there too, right? I live through margin compression every single day, with the race to the bottom. And I do believe over time what happens is, or what will happen is Australia. What happens in the mortgage industry will happen to buyer's agents, right? But how are you going to be able to survive and live through it like I do, right? Because I don't play a race to the bottom. I understand how mortgages work. I understand mortgage rates. I know what this other person is making on a deal just by them showing me a closing cost worksheet, because I understand mortgage-backed securities and coupons and how they work and raw pricing and all of these things, right? So when somebody's showing a closing cost worksheet and they're only making 0.5%, hey, go ahead, do your thing. I want to see if that person is going to service you the way that you want to be serviced at a 0.5% commission. Because if he's doing that for you, he's doing that for 10 other people. And then those 10 other people are going to be calling, asking for information, and he doesn't have enough money to, hey, hire somebody, right? So it's one person working on 10 clients. Every single deal has a buyer's agent, listing agent, the title company, right? These are things that I understand and I'm able to make decisions based off of, and you guys will be able to too as the buyer's agents, right? Because it's something that happens on the mortgage side, and I believe it's something that will happen on the real estate side as well. But sharpening your tool, getting much better at your business, and deciding what's a client that you want to take and what's a client that you don't want to take, and knowing what your value is and what your worth is. And I think that that's something that you guys should look into now, ending 2024, leading into 2025, what we believe is going to be a hot market. But what happens in a hot market right now, we are a little bit into a buyer's market, I would say a little bit, but it is a buyer's market. But as soon as rates come down, guess what? We're going to be in a seller's market. How are you going to fight for your commission then, right? It's not going to be 2020 or 2021 where people are paying $30,000, $40,000 over appraised value. But it will be, hey, sellers firm at this price, they're not giving credits, and hey, guess what? You're only getting 1% commission, right? What value do you provide to your clients that is going to make it worth you getting that deal done? And sometimes, like me, sometimes I got to do deals for free. Sometimes I got to take 1%. It just depends. And you're able to pivot if you understand your value and you understand what you provide. But that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about when it comes to the NAR settlement. And I'm going to be sending you guys as well the business plan template. I sent it last year. I'm going to send it again so that you guys can work on. It looks something like, let me see if I can pull it up really quick. Where's my mouse at? And then if anything, we'll go over it when we do our business planning presentation. But very similar to this, right? Your name, the date, how much you want to make in 2025. I just need to update it. What's your average percentage in commission, right? Buyers, sellers, how many buyers do you have per year? How many sellers do you have per year? Usually, what is your purchase, your volume based off of percentage? Maybe you do 75% buyers, 25% sellers, right? Based upon your above annual volume goal, your monthly goal, it'll tell you, okay, if I want to make $100,000, my average commission is $267 after my broker takes the fees, after whatever, right? Is what I pretty much net. Well, at that case, in order for me to make 100,000, I only needed to sell $3.7 million, which is basically a deal a month, 312,000. Okay, flat. These greens will auto-populate as you fill out the yellows. Okay, so that's all you would have to typically worry about. You would put what your average sale amount is, and you would go based off of this year so far, year to date. So if your average sale amount this year has been 450, right? What does that look like? How many homes have you sold this year? Right? What's your pull through percentage with your buyers? This is why it's super important to have a CRM, right? You may have 1,000 leads in there that you got this year, but you only closed 5 of them. That's a very, very low percentage, right? Where are your leads coming from? What do they look like? What's your pull through percentage from lead to closing, right? In this case, we've had put 20% here, and it's going to funnel all of these things in green for you. And then you start talking about what you actually want to accomplish. What are the 5 sales activities that you want to focus on next year? Super important. It is sales oriented. I don't want to hear, creating my CRM. You got to do that shit now, right? You can't just put that as an activity. These are true sales activities, right? Seminars, okay, fine. Seminars is one of them. A lot of you guys do seminars and you're not focusing on the marketing aspect of it. You're focusing so much on what that seminar is going to look like that day that you forget that there's a piece, and that's getting people in the door. So what does that look like when you're doing a seminar, right? What type of marketing do you need to do? I need to do social media marketing and not just posting a flyer, right? Get deeper than posting a flyer. Well, instead of me just doing, okay, if I'm going to do social media marketing, I'm going to pay for ads in the areas that I'm hosting the seminar, right? Budget of maybe $100 per, right? Then in the actual seminars, I'm gonna have probably do 1 a quarter, so 4 per year, right? Have partners help out with costs / locations, right? Use us. It is part of our marketing budget, right? Every time you guys ask me for a seminar, you guys can tell me what to bring. You guys, I pretty much usually I'm okay with always providing the locations. Easy, I have an office to do it, so that saves you costs on the location, right? So thinking about that, having title chip in for food, right, or something like that, and then that way your focus is mainly more so on how to get people in the door, right? Calling all the leads in your CRM / dripping until the day of seminar, right? That RSVP list, what does that look like, right? And then that way you can have these well thought out ideas and plans to move forward for the coming year. But I think it's so important for you guys to kind of really sit down and iron these things out. And it's going to be part of the business plan presentation that we speak about. I did it last year towards the end of the year. So we'll be doing it again this year, just updating it. And then you can go in and, you know, put your Q1 results. How many leads did you get? How many closings, right? But you have to start in October because we spoke about this, right? It takes about 60 days for you to actually turn a lead into a closed deal. So if you're starting in October, that means that those are going to be working for December contracts to January closings, right? You can't start your year in January, you're already late. You start your year in January and you start focusing on these things in January, then that means your closings are going to happen till March. Okay, you have to start in October, and that way those deals go under contract December. December turns to January closings, January contracts, so on and so forth. Right? That's the way that you have to kind of think about your business, because it does take 60 days for that wheel to start really turning. And you focusing on what you want to do for the next year is going to be super important. If you want to do social media marketing, right? Like I said, use this as a tool. That studio will be up hopefully by the end of the year so that you guys can already start coming in and producing content, and it's free for you guys, literally free. Okay. You come in, you reserve the hours or the spots, and we'll get the editors for you. Okay, great. I think I have you guys' emails. Miami Lakes, Monique. I'm saving the emails that you guys sent me just in case, but I think I have it already. I'm going to send it to everybody either way, just so that you have it and you can start working on it. And then if not next week, probably October, we'll start doing the business plan presentation. That way it gives you guys a couple weeks to iron out your business plans and put them together. And we can talk about them as well when we do the business planning presentation. All right, y'all. Got you as well. Any questions? Anything you guys want to talk about?
Thank you for that wonderful template.
No problem. All right, guys. We'll be back next Monday, same time. I'll see you then. Anything you need,